Alright, yo, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a 90s R&B type beat for artists such as LAWSY, Jessa, and Sosa. So let's get straight into it. This one's going to be a bit of a long tutorial today. Alright, so firstly, we start with the E piano, which sounds like this. So breaking down this melody, I use the Players EP from this plugin called JV1080 by Roland, and I'm gonna break down how I actually made this piano melody. So pretty much, I started with this initial chord progression, which sounds like this. So I've just got a C minor chord going to A sharp major, and then I've got C minor repeating. And I've got these transition chords at the end. Another thing you want to do in these 90s R&B type beats is instead of having your chords play directly right on the beat, you shift it to the left a little bit so it's like on the off beat. Just adds that sort of like jazzy feel to it. Then basically what you want to do is to make these kind of beautiful piano melodies is just keep on adding notes. So what I've done is I've like shifted down all these bass notes to down here, just copy and pasted these notes down octaves and added in sevenths and things like that, so it sounds like this. And so this is basically the base of the piano melody. So the way I've gotten into here is pretty much you just want to fuck around a lot, move notes to add syncopation, so play notes on the offbeat, and add a top line melody, which you can just do by experimenting. The best way that I come up with these top line melodies is just by trying to hum a melody in my head, and you want to lay that out on top of the piano melody, and then you can just add some notes that add some harmony to the piano melody. Even like things down here, just little details that just help add to the ethereal feel of the piano melody. Some other things you can do is using these piano rolls that go up. They don't necessarily have to be in the scale, the notes, which helps add to that bluesy, jazzy feel that's used in a lot of 90s R&B type beats. And then after all that, what you want to do you want to randomize your velocities by highlighting all of the notes and doing Alt-R and messing with this velocity knob. You tend to want to have the lower and the higher notes, just turn down the velocities of those a bit lower so that there's a focus on these main chords. And yeah, you sort of just want to have a good spread of velocities. And then what you also want to do is to add a bit more of a human feel is select your chords and do Alt S on your keyboard. Oh wait, no, it's Alt S to bring up the strumizer, and you can just mess around with these. I usually like to, maybe do that, then turn it down a little bit here, and it just adds a bit more of a human feel. As you can hear here, it's more like just playing directly, whereas this is strummed. So that adds a bit more of a human feel to it. And yeah, adding these like sort of like top line melodies, just these chords are just repeated every 4 bars, but I've added this top line melody on here just to create a bit of variety. Using these like high notes, especially on 8 pianos, can sound really beautiful, and they're suitable for these kind of beats. So then what I've done is I've taken this piano melody and removed the top line and copied it onto this piano from Xenology, which is the AX piano, and that sounds like this. Pretty basic, just copying over the same melody. Then I've gotten this, I think it's a bell pad from Xenology, or it's a synth, yeah, bell pad. It's called D52 Babe, and I just added this repetitive melody that's got a bit of syncopation, and you can add a bit of high end to the melody. As you can see, I've randomized the velocities here a bit as well. And then on the mix, I've added this fruity panomatic, so it just pans, as you can see, right here. It goes from ear to ear, just to add a little bit of subtle detail to it. Then I added this try and extreme lead, express lead, and that sounds like this. The way you want to kind of create these melodies, especially for these leads, is I tend to have this main idea, which is heard here. And then I've repeated it the second bar, but it's got a little bit of variation with this C up here. And then the third time it's repeated, it's got this variation that helps lead it back to the beginning, and it just adds a bit more of an interesting feel to it. Then what I've gone ahead and done is I've copied this same melody that I've used in the piano, and I've copied it onto a guitar from Xenology, nylon EP, a nylon guitar, and I've just messed around with it a bit so it's a bit more strummed and sounds a bit more guitar-like. Let's just repeat it again here. And I've just gotten rid of some of the high notes, the top melody, and you don't want the guitar melody to be too cluttered. Alright, so then we've got these high-end strings which I've gotten from Expand 2. I think it's the bigger legato strings, and that sounds like this. I'm pretty sure it's just playing the root notes except for the first two notes. Let me see. Yeah, so these notes here are the root notes, but this is just, I've got this ascending pattern to it, which it just adds a bit more high end and it fills out the melody when you add that. Then in JV 1080, once again, I've gotten this Pretty Bells patch and I copied over the high end, the top melody from the piano, and just laid it onto here. So it sounds like this. Then I grabbed this bass guitar patch from Try and Extreme, which is called the Vel slap bass, velocity slap bass. And what's good about this preset or this patch is when you increase the velocity of the notes, it's going to have more of a slap bass sound to it, whereas a lower velocity will have a softer feel. So I've used that to make the bass melody a bit more interesting. So I've just copied the root notes that I laid in the piano, and I've just added a bit more syncopation to the bass line. You want to have these like notes where you go up. It sort of adds like that slap bass feel, and just adding a lot of syncopation. Pretty much, it's simple as that. and you just want to keep messing around until you get something that sounds good. It's almost similar to like trying to make an 808 pattern, but with a bass guitar. Alright, and then last but not least for the melody, we've got this final lead pattern, which sounds like this. This is definitely a more complicated lead pattern, I can't lie. This preset is called Ribbon Your Head Off from Try and Extreme. It's probably in the normal Try and plugin as well. But pretty much I've just created this first lead here, copied it up an octave, and it's the same thing as stated before. Like, the best way to make these kinds of melodies is just listening to what you've already got in your beat and trying to sing a top melody on top of it, and then sort of laying that down into FL, into your piano roll, and then just adding extra notes, adding embellishments such as these like grace notes. Just makes it sound a whole lot more interesting. And using these sort of leads that like have portamento between them just makes it sound a lot more smoother, and they glide together. And little things like this sort of like arpeggiated run, it just adds a lot to the beat. That's all I can really say. But yeah, altogether the melody sounds like this. Alright, moving on to the drums. We've got these 90's R&B type drums, which include lots and lots of percussion. So usually I always start my drums with the kick. So that sounds like this. It might feel a little offbeat, but when you incorporate that kick with the snare, which is this. Oh, wait. They work together, so you really want to have like a syncopated feel when it comes to your kicks and your claps. Sort of these kind of like double kicks here, and using these offbeat notes and just using it in conjunction with your snare is really just going to help add to that like bouncy 90's R&B drum feel. Then you want to fill all the gaps with tons and tons of perks. So first off, we'll start with this shaker. You can sort of notice that like this shaker is just playing in all of the gaps and has a very syncopated feel to it as well. It's playing on all of the off beats, and it's got variation with its velocities, and it just adds like a lot to the beat by like rhythmic wise. Then I added this perk with a triangle. Same thing, just filling out gaps. Then what I've done here is I've layered a snap with the snare. So this is what the snap sounds like. But I've played it a little bit earlier before the beat, so the snap leads into the snare. So I'll play the snare by itself. When they're layered together, it just adds that sort of like driving into the snare kind of feel. Then I added another shaker. Just as you can see, like the shaker, it's in the gap where nothing else is being played. So that's pretty much just what I'm doing throughout. I've added another snare. I think it's a room actually. Then a crash at the beginning of every 8 bars. This tom that plays right on the beat. And then another tom here. So you can see this tom is playing when no other beats being played. Then I added this last triangle. A good thing on the thing you can commonly do in like a lot of these 90s R&B type beats is in these last 2 beats, having something hit on these beats right here. It adds a lot of syncopation when leading back into the next 4 bars. Once you've done all of your percussion, it should sound like this altogether. Then after all of that is done, you just want to structure out your beat. Usually it's pretty common for these types of beats to get a sound effect like this. And just put it for the first 2 bars. Or first 2 beats, sorry. And then I've just added my producer tag. And every 8 bars, I've added this chime sound effect, which sounds like this. And that just adds a lot to the beat. It just helps add to that feel. So altogether, your beat should sound like this once you're done.
Have mercy.